You are going to watch this video and disagree with at least one of these traps. That is how you'll know you're in it. Because every single one of these 7 traps was built to feel normal. To feel smart. To feel like a logical decision that everyone around you is also making. And that is exactly what makes them traps. Here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. The system was not built to make you wealthy. It was built to keep you spending. And it has been extraordinarily effective. Consumer debt has risen from $14.2 trillion in 2019 to $18.8 trillion by 2025. That is not a number. That is a warning. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which of these 7 traps are operating in your life right now. More importantly, you will know how to dismantle them, not by earning more, not by sacrificing everything, but by thinking differently. Let's talk about why most financial advice fails. Most of the content you've seen about building wealth tells you to cut your coffee, track every dollar, and grind harder. And while some of that has merit, it misses something fundamental. It treats the symptoms without ever addressing the architecture of the problem. The traps I'm going to show you today are not budgeting mistakes. They are mental frameworks, invisible systems of thinking that dictate every financial decision you make, often without you realizing it. Old money families understood this centuries ago. Wealth, in its most durable form, is not about what you earn. It is about how you think about what you earn. Thomas Stanley spent 40 years studying the quietly wealthy, not the flashy rich, not the lottery winners, not the celebrities. The ones who accumulate and keep. His research revealed something that disrupts nearly every assumption we hold. Almost 2/3 of wealthy Americans are first-generation rich. They did not inherit it. They built it. And they built it not by earning more than their peers, but by thinking differently. So the question is, what were they thinking that most people aren't? The answer begins with recognizing these 7 traps. And I want to warn you, some of these will be uncomfortable. Not because they're complex, they're not. But because you've probably been operating inside them for years, believing it was normal. Believing it was fine. It is not fine. But it is fixable. Let's begin. Trap number 1 is called the lifestyle tax. And it is perhaps the most elegant prison ever constructed. Here's how it works. You get a raise. You work hard for it. You deserve it. And almost immediately, almost instinctively, your life expands to fill it. You move to a slightly nicer apartment. You upgrade your car. You start eating out more often. You switch to the premium version of things. After all, you earned it. And you're not wrong. But here is what no one tells you. Your net worth hasn't moved. This phenomenon has a name. Economists call it lifestyle inflation. And it operates with devastating precision. Research shows that as earnings increase, spending rises at almost the same rate. Not because people are irresponsible, but because the entire architecture of modern life is calibrated to absorb any additional income you generate. Every time you cross a new income threshold, a new set of standards emerges. A new baseline of normal. And the gap between what you earn and what you keep, the only gap that actually builds wealth, stays exactly the same. Think about what this means compounded over 20 years. Imagine 2 people who both earn $50,000 a year at 25. One experiences lifestyle inflation. Every raise becomes a lifestyle upgrade. By 45, they earn $110,000 a year but live paycheck to paycheck on slightly nicer things. The other keeps their baseline intentionally low. By 45, with identical income over the same period, they have built a fundamentally different financial position. Not because of income, because of architecture. The escape is deceptively simple. Before any raise becomes lifestyle, decide what percentage goes directly to wealth-building assets before it ever touches your spending account? Even 15%. Even 10%. Take it out before you see it. You cannot miss what you never held. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because trap number 2 is the engine that makes trap number 1 almost impossible to escape without understanding it first. In 2024, researchers published a study on what they called financial FOMO. The numbers were staggering. 57% of people admitted to making a financial decision directly after seeing someone else's lifestyle online. 76% acknowledged making purchases driven by the fear of missing out. Let that settle. More than half of all financial decisions made by the average person are not driven by genuine need, genuine desire, or genuine planning. They are driven by comparison. By the sight of someone else having something and the corresponding feeling that you should also have it. This is not a character flaw. This is engineering. The social media economy is not built to inspire you. It is built to monetize the gap between your life and the life you're watching. And the cruelest part? The life you're comparing yourself to is not real. Old money families do not post their estates on social media. They do not drive conspicuous cars to signal success. They are, by both habit and philosophy, invisible. Not because they lack confidence, but because they have nothing to prove. Their wealth is not a performance. It is a fact. The comparison economy functions because most people have outsourced their definition of enough to the curated lives of strangers. When someone else's highlight reel becomes your financial benchmark, you have entered a game with no finish line and no winners. The escape is radical but not complex. Define your own enough before the algorithm does it for you. Write it down. What does a life of genuine sufficiency look like for you, not for the people watching your stories? In the 1960s and 70s, a psychologist at Stanford University named Walter Miskell conducted a series of studies that would become some of the most cited research in psychology. You may have heard of it. We call it the marshmallow test. Children were placed in a room with a single marshmallow. They were told, if you can wait 15 minutes without eating it, you'll get 2 marshmallows. Then the researcher left the room. Some children ate the marshmallow immediately. Others waited. Miskell followed these children for decades. And what he found rewrote everything we thought we knew about human potential. The children who waited had higher SAT scores, higher educational attainment, lower debt levels, higher incomes. The ability to defer a single marshmallow at 4 years old was one of the strongest predictors of life outcomes researchers had ever documented. Old money families do not post their estates on social media. They do not drive conspicuous cars to signal success. They are, by both habit and philosophy, invisible. Not because they lack confidence, but because they have nothing to prove. Their wealth is not a performance. It is a fact. The comparison economy functions because most people have outsourced their definition of enough to the curated lives of strangers. When someone else's highlight reel becomes your financial benchmark, you have entered a game with no finish line and no winners. The escape is radical but not complex. Define your own enough before the algorithm does it for you. Write it down. What does a life of genuine sufficiency look like for you, not for the people watching your stories? In the 1960s and 70s, a psychologist at Stanford University named Walter Miskell conducted a series of studies that would become some of the most cited research in psychology. You may have heard of it. We call it the marshmallow test. Children were placed in a room with a single marshmallow. They were told, if you can wait 15 minutes without eating it, you'll get 2 marshmallows. Then the researcher left the room. Some children ate the marshmallow immediately. Others waited. Miskell followed these children for decades. And what he found rewrote everything we thought we knew about human potential. The children who waited had higher SAT scores, higher educational attainment, lower debt levels, higher incomes. The ability to defer a single marshmallow at 4 years old was one of the strongest predictors of life outcomes researchers had ever documented. Now transfer this to financial behavior. Every purchase made on impulse is an eaten marshmallow. Every unnecessary upgrade, every FOMO purchase, every decision driven by the need to feel good right now, is a marshmallow eaten before the second one arrives. And modern life has become extraordinarily efficient at creating marshmallow moments. One-click purchasing. Instant delivery. Buy now, pay later. Every friction that used to separate the impulse from the purchase has been systematically removed. Research from Leiden University published in 2024 showed something equally disturbing. Lack of money itself creates a psychological poverty trap. When you are financially stressed, the capacity for complex long-term thinking literally diminishes. Cognitive bandwidth narrows. Decision-making degrades. The escape: create distance between impulse and purchase. A rule as simple as, I do not buy anything non-essential within 24 hours of wanting it. In that space, most impulses evaporate. Here is a sentence that would have been considered absurd 100 years ago. I'll pay for it later. Not as an emergency measure. Not as a last resort. As a default strategy. As the expected and accepted way of acquiring things you want but cannot yet afford. The normalization of debt is one of the most successful marketing campaigns in human history. And it happened so gradually, so systematically, that most people now genuinely believe that carrying debt is simply part of life. Consumer debt has now crossed $18.8 trillion. And 60% of Americans, including people with six-figure incomes, advanced degrees, stable employment, said they would be stressed by an unexpected $500 expense. $500. Think about what that means. Old money does not finance consumption. This is not negotiable and not nuanced. They do not borrow to buy things that lose value. Full stop. The only debt that the quietly wealthy consider legitimate is debt used to acquire assets that generate returns exceeding the cost of borrowing. Real estate. A business. A specific investment. A car. Cash. Furniture. Cash. Experiences. Cash. The rule is simple. If it does not create more value than it cost, you should not go into debt to acquire it. When you must physically have the money before you acquire something, your relationship with consumption transforms. Things stop feeling free. They start feeling like decisions. And decisions, unlike impulses, require thought. There is a pervasive belief at the foundation of most financial anxiety. If I just earned more, everything would be fine. It is an understandable belief. It feels logical. More income means more resources means more security. The problem is that it is almost entirely false. Thomas Stanley and his research team spent decades studying how wealthy people actually accumulate wealth. What he found was a formula so simple it almost seems like a joke. Wealth equals income minus expenses, multiplied by time. That's it. That's the whole equation. Notice what is in the formula. Income minus expenses. Not income alone. The gap between what comes in and what goes out, preserved and compounded over time. This means that a person earning $60,000 a year who preserves $20,000 of it is building wealth at the same rate as a person earning $200,000 a year who preserves $20,000 of it. Same result. dramatically different salaries. Between 1979 and 2024, American worker productivity increased by 80.9%. But worker compensation rose by only 29.4%. The value created by workers has consistently outpaced what workers receive for creating it. This means that chasing income, trying to earn your way to wealth in a system calibrated to capture most of what you produce, is a losing strategy for most people. The escape is a shift in measurement. Stop measuring success by what you earn. Start measuring it by what you keep. Your savings rate is not a sacrifice. It is your wealth velocity. Walk into any room of genuinely old money. Notice what you don't see. You don't see logos. You don't see conspicuous brand names stitched in large letters across the chest. You don't see the car that announces its price tag in the shape of its hood ornament. You don't see the watch that costs more than a semester at university and exists primarily to tell other people how much it cost. What you see instead are things of quality. Understated quality. A cashmere sweater with no visible branding. A car that is objectively excellent but does not draw attention. Furniture that is clearly expensive but not in a way that announces itself. The status display trap operates on a very simple mechanism. It converts your wealth into performance. And every dollar spent performing wealth is a dollar that is no longer building it. Research on American millionaires consistently shows that the average millionaire drives a used car, lives in a house they could easily upgrade, and wears clothing that is indistinguishable from someone earning a fraction of their net worth. New money says, "I have arrived. Let me show you." Old money says, "I have always been here. I have nothing to prove." The escape does not require austerity. It requires clarity. Ask one question before any significant purchase. Is this value coming from the thing itself, or from what owning it signals? If it's the latter, you are about to pay a premium for an audience's opinion. Invest the difference. Build quietly. Arrive without announcing it. The seventh trap is the most personal. And in some ways, the hardest to discuss. Most people who are serious about building wealth believe, at some level, that it is a solitary endeavor. That success is achieved alone, through discipline and effort, without depending on others. It is also, as a practical matter, significantly misleading. Researchers studying social networks and economic outcomes have documented something that wealthy people have always known intuitively. Your financial trajectory is profoundly shaped by the people around you. Not in a mystical way. In a very practical one. The people in your immediate circle influence what you consider normal. For income, for spending, for ambition, for possibility. They share information, opportunities, introductions, and perspectives that are genuinely unavailable outside those relationships. If everyone around you lives paycheck to paycheck, debt is normal, investment seems like a luxury, and the conversation about money centers on expenses rather than assets, you will absorb these assumptions. Not because you are weak. Because you are human. We calibrate to our environment. Old money families solve this problem through something they rarely articulate explicitly but practice consistently. They curate their environment. They belong to circles where ambition is unremarkable, where investment is a normal dinner conversation. The isolation of ambition trap convinces you that asking for guidance, seeking community, or admitting you don't know something is weakness. Old money knows the opposite is true. The escape is intentional community. The genuine, deliberate cultivation of relationships with people whose thinking challenges and expands your own. Seek it out. Your environment is not fixed. It is a choice. 7 traps. All of them designed. All of them reinforced by culture, technology, marketing, and social pressure. And all of them once seen, significantly diminished in power. The lifestyle tax. Your expenses must not rise with your income. Automate the gap before it disappears. The comparison economy. Your financial benchmark must come from your own values, not from curated screens. The gratification gap. Delay is not deprivation. It is the mechanism by which wealth is built. The debt normalization trap. Debt is not a financial tool for consumption. It is a tax on your future. The income illusion. What you earn is the wrong number. What you preserve and compound is the one that matters. The status display trap. Visible wealth and actual wealth are two different and often opposing things. The isolation of ambition. Your environment shapes your financial reality more than your income ever will. These are not obstacles. They are the beginning of a map. And knowing where the traps are is the first act of escaping them. The quiet architecture of real wealth is not complicated. It requires clarity. It requires a definition of wealth that belongs to you, built around what you actually value, executed patiently, invisibly, over time. That is what the quietly wealthy have always done. Not with great drama or visible sacrifice. With deliberate, unhurried, consistent intention. If what I've shared today resonates, if you recognize yourself in any of these traps and you're ready to begin building something that lasts, I want to give you the next step. I've put together a framework called the Quiet Luxury Blueprint. It is a structured guide to building real wealth using the principles of old money, quiet luxury, and long-term thinking. Not theory. A working architecture you can begin applying immediately. You'll find it at the link below this video. Take it seriously. Share this video with one person who needs to hear it. And if you want more content like this, if you want to keep thinking differently about wealth, about time, about what a genuinely rich life actually looks like, subscribe. We build here. Quietly. Over time.